The next episode of The Commercial Break starts now.
Oh, yeah, cats and kittens, welcome back to The Commercial Break. I'm Bryan Green. This is the Winehouse to my Lipa, Kristen, Joy, Hoadley. Best to you, Krissy.
Best to you, Bryan.
Best to you out there in the podcast universe. Thanks for joining us today on a TCB Infomercial Tuesday with Mr. Russell Howard, UK sensation.
He is. He's the Robbie Williams.
He's the Robbie Williams of comedy over there in the UK, and we're so excited to have him. Feeling very grateful that he's decided to stop by the commercial break because he's British and he doesn't know. Yeah. He doesn't know that the commercial break is not a place you go.
If you're trying to get the word out.
That's right, if you're trying to get the word out. But I'm honestly, we've been grateful to have so many wonderful guests as of late.
Yes.
Roy Wood Jr., Felipe Esparza, so many that we can talk about. But go check out those episodes because they are doing very well, Krissy, on the...
I heard on the interwebs.
On the interwebs. There you go. And who knows, maybe we'll make a little news today with our good friend Russell Howard, currently on tour. He's going to be coming to the West Coast of the United States here very shortly. We'll put all the links in the show notes, as we always do. And his special is now out.
It's really funny, too.
It is really funny.
Jeff was laughing, too.
Oh, if we got Jeff laughing,
Jeff was laughing,
then we know that we've hit on something special because Jeff doesn't laugh. He's a humorless son of a bitch.
Serious.
Jeff is a humorless son of a bitch. You hear me, Jeff? Loosen up, dude. Actually, Jeff's kind of like one of the loosest people I know. He's very loose. When he gets his bell rung, don't tighten up, Mr. Green.
No, he's
Ding
loose.
dong. They go in there, they ring the door, they stick their hand in and they wave. They drop a package off and then Amazon comes in Jeff's store. That's all I got to say. That's how loosey-goosey he is. Anyway, Russell's going to be here and I'm very excited. Speaking of UK news, it seems that that Meghan and Harry have done the right thing and they have postponed the much ballyhooed premiere of her, I don't know, Cooking with Kate thing that's going on. Is it
Meghan?
Meghan, I'm sorry, Cooking with Meghan. Cooking with Kate.
That's the other sister.
That's the other sister.
Yeah.
Cooking with Meghan, she had...
was it a cooking show or I guess like a lifestyle show?
It was a lifestyle show, but I think that it supposedly... Lifestyle.
Yeah, lifestyle.
If you want to get right with your lifestyle, check out Frankie B's new video.
I wonder if she watched some of his episodes to get ready for it.
Oh, listen, I'm sure that Meghan Markle is tuned right into Frank Bernardo. Yeah. Even he says his name wrong. Bernardo in the greater Chicagoland area. People, by the way, love Frankie B. I mean, every time we do an episode, we just get so much feedback about our Frankie B episodes. And I wish that there was more to do, but I think we've run out.
He's got a girlfriend.
He's got a girlfriend, and she's not letting him anywhere near the YouTubes. No. But fear not. If you've heard any of Frankie's relationship advice, he'll soon be back to YouTube at 72 years old. We did find his social media, so that's good. But actually, I applaud Meghan on this one because apparently she called it a love letter to Southern California and all things wonderful. Listen, I think some of the content that they're producing for Netflix is a little tone deaf in general, but okay, whatever. I mean, there's lots of cooking shows out there, and a lot of them focus on the higher end. What's that one? The Ina Garden, In the Garden, or Ina Garden? Yeah. There's Ina Garden, there's Martha Stewart, there's a whole channel now, a whole cooking channel.
Yes, there is.
Have you seen this?
Of course, it's been around forever.
No, not the cooking channel. There is a cooking channel. I know about the cooking channel. I'm saying a cooking channel, like a chef channel, a food-related channel that is dedicated to just like food porn. It's a lot of...
I've heard of that.
Have you heard of this one? I can't remember the name of it, but I saw it in a doctor's office once, and it was literal. I was waited for like a half an hour, and it was literally just shots of food with not a lot of talking in beautiful settings in France and, I'm sure in the wine country and all this other stuff. So, I understand that there is a demand for that kind of content, that people like to see their food being cooked in beautiful settings and eaten by beautiful people and all that shit. But it's kind of a do or die for Meghan and Harry as far as that Netflix deal is concerned. So I'm super interested to see how that all plays out. Does this, in fact, become the hit that Meghan and Harry need, as if they need any more money. They got $150 million from Netflix. But I do think the right thing is to hold off on that, given all the circumstances that are going on out in California.
God, so sad.
It is just terrible. We've talked a lot about it on the show, and I think partly because it's hard to believe that it's happened in a major metropolitan city has burned like this. I think partly it's because we know people that live out there and who are our own agent. Has been, him and I have been in conversations, and he lives close to one of the fires. And they have been getting all kind of notifications. You're in, you're out, you're in, you're out, you're in, you're out. That must be a terrible way to live. And then they went out without power for 4 or 5 days, which, if you've ever done, is a very uncomfortable situation.
Yeah, it's incredible. I feel so bad too for just the children of, because I guess schools have been closed, obviously, and things. And I can't imagine being a young child and knowing that your home burned.
No.
That's so traumatic.
That is I've never been through a fire, but that has got to be one of the things that, no pun intended, gets seared into your psyche and that you just can't forget as a child. That's one of the basic fears of humanity: getting eaten by some wild animal, shark, or getting bitten by a snake. I think those things we're just born with because it's a fight or flight response. Fire is one of those things. Super helpful, but very scary, right? And if you don't, and it can go either way. It's like it can get out of control very quickly. So our hearts go out. And Russell was supposed to be with us last week talking about his new special that came out on the 15th, but he's here today because he was in LA and had to get out very quickly to make sure that he and his family were safe. So Russell Howard is an extraordinarily popular comic out in the UK. Some might say the most popular comic that's working from the UK right now. And he has had so many television shows on the BBC. He's been
on for 20 years.
Yeah, right? So many different iterations of Russell Howard. He did I guess the thing that we can liken it to the thing that I think he's most known for, at least from my research, because I don't live in the UK.
You are a British expert.
I am a British expert on television, that's for sure. I love that British television. And anytime someone British from the British television comes in, I do get a little fanboy. I'm like,
I know, it's a little giddy.
Yeah, I don't know why. I'm so giddy about British comedy in general. But the thing that he's probably best known for is the Russell Howard Hour, which is a television show that ran for some 200 hours over there. And it's kind of like our daily show. It's like satire about pop culture and news and politics, stuff like that. There is a ton of that on his YouTube channel. I will put Christina will put those links.
Thank you, Christina.
Thank you, Christina.
You're welcome.
We'll put those links in the show note. Also to his tours, to tour tickets that are mainly on the West Coast. But if you're near, you should go check him out. He's going to be doing smaller venues here than he does.
Or if you're in Helsinki. That's where he's going to be starting off.
Budapest.
For our...
Sorry, that was an automatic play.
Oh, okay. I see what's going on over there. She's on Russell. She's bored with us. She's
I pulled up the YouTube to put the link in the show notes. Sue me.
So anyway, Russell's doing that tour here in the United States. Tickets are available. We'll put a link, and then you can go to this Drift website and get access to his brand new special. Highly suggest you do, because even Jeff's laughing.
Yep.
Even Jeff
gets
is
the Jeff
laughing.
approval.
That's right. Okay, so let's do this. Why don't we take a short break? We'll bring Russell on through telepodcasting magic. And then when we get back, our conversation with Mr. Howard. Hey, Russell, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm worried about your sign in the background that looks precarious. It feels like it looks like it's gonna fall.
Oh. We are not sure who actually put that up. So there's a running gag on this show, and it's actually not really all that funny to us here in the studio, but technically we are inept. It is we're 5 years into this. We're 1,000 hours worth of programming into this. You don't know how much goes wrong technically on this show.
Tape here,
wires there.
But that's the way, isn't it?
Yes.
The best things in life are rickety, aren't they? Do you know what I mean? That's what gives them spirit. If you see a nice clean suitcase at an airport, there's no mystery, there's no excitement. I want to see bumps and scrapes.
Well, next time you're in Atlanta, Georgia, you come to our house and we'll have to lift you into the studio to avoid knocking over any wires. Most importantly, since you're the only British person we're going to have on the show this week, we have to ask, Who is Robbie Williams and why is he a chimpanzee and how's this playing out in the UK?
It's so interesting because Robbie Williams is a massive pop star in the UK and Europe and Australia, but never kind of made it to the United States. And I thought that as well. I was in LA last week and saw these huge 100-foot posters of Robbie as a monkey. And I thought that's an odd selling point.
It's so
because
strange.
Presumably, if America does fall in love with the simian version, they're going to be so disappointed when they actually go to see Robbie Williams and go, oh, it's just a man. Because it would be bewildering to see a monkey with the ability that Robbie's got.
But that I would pay for.
Well, this is it. Well, this is the problem I think he's inadvertently stumbled into. If the film goes massive, there's going to be lots of really giddy Americans rocking up, presumably with bananas and tires, just to fling them at him to see what tricks he can do. But the British fans, I think we find it really interesting because it's a bit like, he's huge. It's, he's as big as Ed Sheeran in this country. So it would be, I guess, Ed Sheeran, instead of doing like a straight documentary, is like, I'm going to be a flamingo, just want one leg. Do you know what I mean?
Or an octopus.
Exactly, to kind of make it, to make it different. But I guess if people don't know who you are, it is utterly bewildering. But there's something really kind of cool about it as well.
I agree with you here, is that like as a story device, I can understand why I'm the monkey and, I play like a monkey and I sing for a monkey. I can understand like it could be a deeper meaning behind it and it could all play out well. And apparently it's been received well by critics and the Golden Globes and maybe Oscar talk. I don't know. It made about $500,000 in its opening weekend here in the United States, which is by all stretches of the imagination a hot flop, right? So I don't think we've bought into this yet, but we know of Robbie Williams, and when I see his face, I'm like, oh, that's a singer from the UK who has done very well for himself. But the challenge is that there's an old saying in Hollywood: never work with children or monkeys. And he went straight for monkey, and I just think maybe it was not as a plot device, maybe not such a hot thing. But is it playing well over there? Are people going to see it and they like it?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. But because I only saw the poster of it when I was in LA, and I was like, shit, is that our Robbie? And he's a monkey now? Okay. And so it was, but because of the backdrop of horror that was going on in LA, I didn't sort of linger on that. But it was kind of in amongst the sort of black smoke. I saw that and I was like, fuck, that's odd. But I haven't kind of sat and thought about it, but it would be like, when John Oliver got his break to do The Daily Show, if he came as an animal, you've got the thing is, if you're trying to break America, you have to then stay as the animal.
Yes.
You have
but Americans are dumb. If you start off as a chimpanzee, we're going to be confused.
True. No, I don't know. I think if anyone introduced themselves as a monkey and then went, only fucking around, I'm a singer. I'm a singer from Manchester. Then I think the audience is allowed to go, okay, why? But I don't know. But I was surprised how big the posters were because
they're huge.
But it's a bit like Seinfeld isn't particularly big in the UK. It just never quite translated, which is mind blowing to Americans. But that culture of kind of sitting in cafes talking about cereal, that didn't exist in the 90s, and obviously loads of people are into it, but it isn't it just doesn't have the same resonance, in the way that something like Friends was massive, or there was a show in the UK called Only Fools and Horses, which is without doubt the biggest British sitcom of all time.
Very funny.
And yet nobody, well, that's it, but you've got to,
you got to
know
like
what I mean?
That.
You've got to find it. As an American, you have to find it. You have to understand what does Peckham mean? Like, how does it fit here? So it's, I don't know, that it's an interesting thing for Robbie Williams. But then he does like stadiums in the UK. He's so big that he probably just was like, I'll be a bit fun, a bit of a laugh.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
He explained it. Then when he was on, I think it was Graham Norton, he explained that the director came in and said, hey, we have to, I want a story device because the regular musical biography is played out, right? It's just the same. We're doing the same thing over and over again. Let's do something different. I want you to think of an animal. What do you want to be? And he said lion. And he said, well, I don't know about a singing lion, right? So
a lion would be funny because the look of fear in the audience.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
3D. Yeah.
But then when the lion starts doing ballads, that must be really bewildering.
How was your experience out in LA? You know, we were scheduled to do an interview last week, and Russell was stuck in the heat, really in the heat of the moment, right as the fires started.
Sad.
It was
awful.
there a lot of fear and panic in the air?
It's horrific. It was just, and it's still going on. So it was it was like just this. I was only there for 2 days, but it suddenly became this, it just disaster. And then I was flying from LA to New York to do the rest of the kind of PR, and there was black smoke, and there were people crying on the plane. It was really heavy and awful, and it's still going on. It's just these things that happen every so often that are just unfair and cruel, and. Yeah, and they seem to be happening more often, or at least we get that news so quickly now that it's like cycle after cycle of kind of these things. And we have friends and family in LA, and it's brutal, eh?
It's apocalyptic. It really is. It's weird and apocalyptic, and you never. That's just not something that's on your bingo card, right? Earthquakes happen all the time. Hurricanes you see coming. Tornadoes you can kind of predict. Something that happens here in the United States, but flash fire that takes out thousands of structures is really
awful,
terrible. Russell, I have a question for you. I want to just step back for 1 minute on something you said. When you come to America, you're going to be on tour here. It looks like you're hitting a lot of the West Coast cities out there. When you come to the United States, what are the differences in the audience tastes? Do you have to tailor some of your comedy for? And I'm really interested to hear this answer from a British comic. Do you feel like you have to tailor a little bit the jokes? I know you might have to take out some of the slang that you typically you might use that's familiar to the audience over the pond. But tell me about that experience when you come here to the States. I love it because it's kind of like the gigs aren't as big as the ones, not dissimilar to Robbie. I don't put on the simian suits, but I kind of, I come in my own skin, and there's a better way of putting it than that. But I'm used to doing certain rooms in kind of, in the UK and Australia and Europe, but big rooms. You're trying to say big. You do big rooms.
Yeah, but still, it's still that thing of like doing kind of a 500 seater, a 1,000 seater is still wild and so exciting. So and the electricity. We did a gig in Detroit last time I was there. It was like a 400 seater.
Great city.
And oh my God! But the audience, it was so electric in a way that British audiences can be kind of quite tough. They kind of sort of fold the arms, and you sort of know you've got them if they're kind of the tits hang free. Do you know what I mean? That's kind of it. And but I've always had, whether because some Americans have found me out and they're excited that I'm there, but I've always noticed the audiences more than meeting me halfway, and kind of they've seen loads of my stuff on YouTube or Netflix. So I'm amazed at how much they kind of know and they kind of get me. I guess it would be a bit like, I don't know, Michael Shea or Michelle Wolf doing gigs in London.
Sure.
If they're doing Leicester Square, the audience are going to know Michelle Wolf. They're not going to sort of stumble in.
Yeah.
So I love it, and I kind of find it. I find it so fascinating gigging around the country. Like, it's so brilliant to get that kind of street level knowledge of America. Yeah. And there's so many different Americas. And
it's such a big country.
But it is the country that the world looks to, and it's in such a interesting state of flux. And kind of
putting it.
Yeah, but within that is so much kind of like social commentary and sort of like interesting comedic analysis. And there's things you see, like there's things you see in America you don't see. I saw a homeless man outside a hotel for dogs, and it was this like, so the man had no home and the dog was on holiday.
Right.
And it was this kind of amazing sort of image of decadence. That this man would have a better life if he was Kim Kardashian's Labrador. And that is true. Sad and funny and interesting, but as an English person, I've never seen a hotel for dogs. So and that is ludicrous enough. But when you see a homeless man being moved along because that's where the dogs like to sunbathe, that struck me as funny and unfair and wild. And it's sort of it's a brilliant, dark, comedic analysis
agree with you.
of the kind of weird disparity of wealth. Do you know what I mean? So that's the point I make. It's kind of you.
And I think if you had 3 words to describe the United States of America, it would be funny, unfair, and wild.
Yeah.
That's just like, that is the story of America.
Well done. Well, you're absolutely right. But then it's that thing. Who wouldn't want to, take part of the kind of, get on the ride. So that's and then interesting talking, because essentially that's what stand-up is. I've got a show, but I might see things during the day, and then being able to talk them out with the audience, you kind of get this, I don't know, it feels like every show is kind of unique, because American cities are unique. Like Atlanta is such a different place to New York, which is a very different place to Detroit, which is a different place to Pittsburgh, and you kind of
it's beautiful.
It gives you a layer. It gives you an extra layer as an English comic, because you're on holiday and you feel like weirdly you're representing your country and you're analysing theirs on top of all the kind of natural stand-up that I have anyway. So I love it.
Do you poke at the politics of the United States? Do you poke at the...
I have to bone up on it. I have to really, because, and by also, I'm really interested in trying to find the middle ground, because it feels like so much... so much has been weaponized, and people are, it's so tribal, and people are pitted against each other. And fundamentally, most people, people aren't one thing or another, but they've been forced into it, whether it's politically or comedically. You've got to be this and you've got to be into that. Whereas it's a bit like a buffet. You kind of pick and choose. There's things that I am really right wing about. There's things I'm super liberal about, and that's everybody, I think. And the brilliant thing about laughter is that it's so kind of connecting. Like when you're kind of lost in laughter, you realize, like, that for me, looking at the fact that you have homeless people and hotel for dogs, like, that's interesting irrespective of your kind of political approach. And also, here's the big thing: if you voted for Trump, that doesn't define all of your personality. And I think that's the big thing, that it's kind of, and if you vote for Biden, that doesn't define, you know what I mean? And I'm interested in moving those things away and trying to find the kind of meat of it,
I think this is happening throughout the world, this kind of tribalism. And I mean, I only live here in the United States, but I travel a lot, and I see, my father-in-law, who lives in Venezuela, is fond of saying extremes on both sides end up in the same place, right? That's why you need that healthy push and pull. And I am very much what you just said. I am not all against everything that Trump says. I am not all for everything Biden says. I have my preferences. But at the end of the day, this tribalism makes people feel like they belong. And I think that's really where the story is. The story is there's something going on in this world. And I think it might be the disconnection and loneliness that makes us feel like if we are on a team, if we are a Packers fan, if we are a Trump supporter, if we, if we're British comedy fans, we can get on and knock the American comedy fans on Reddit, because that makes us feel like we're part of something. Where did we go wrong that this type of identification makes us feel like we're someone?
It's funny, eh? Yeah,
but that's the story to me, I think.
It's because it would appear that religion has been replaced with podcasts. I think that's what's happened. I think people have put down the Bible. They've, but again, it's a really good example of like
fair enough
of kind of people. I think with podcasts particularly, you have such a connection with them, because people will be going to work with you guys. You're in their ears, so you're part of their.
It all the time.
Yeah, totally, and it's a really tight, authentic, lovely connection. And I think, like, if you don't have, if society has changed, and my God, it changed during COVID. It's so. These become the constants. You become the constants. You're the chat. People are kind of listening to you, and it's. I don't know.
Did you? I read this and I looked for it, but I don't know where it is. Did you do a series during 2020 and 2021 where you were in your childhood bedroom talking to everybody on a daily basis or a weekly basis?
Yeah,
during COVID.
Yes, yeah. So my wife's a doctor, and she was supposed to come on tour with me, and she was having like a career break in 2020, and she had she was off work, and then COVID really kind of escalated, and she kind of knew she had to go back. And 2 of her friends lived with elderly relatives. And this was the beginning of COVID, when we didn't kind of know what it was.
It was big and scary.
Scary, masks. You didn't, know what it was going to do.
Know anybody.
All that. Exactly.
That stuff.
So her 2 friends came to live at our house, and then I was kind of like shipped off like an evacuee to go and live with my parents for kind of 2 months, which was a real, it was. So and I got offered the chance to do my show, just on a computer, on the laptop, and then kind of send it in. So we did that for 2 months, and it was great. It was it was great in terms that it gave me a focus, and it gave people something to kind of watch, I guess, because nothing was getting made. So there was a while where we were kind of like the only kind of comedy show that was still being made. But I'll tell you what it was, the green room was less cool. If you do a TV show, normally you kind of, you go into the bar afterwards.
Your
few
mom's
beers.
kitchen.
It was exactly that. It was like my mum and my dad, who was really into spinning, bike riding at the time. So, exactly. So I'd see my dad's sweaty man tits, and my mum going, "Do you fancy a glass of wine?" So it just wasn't as rock and roll. But listen, it kind of, what it's like. That's what we realized.
That's when we started the show, and I swear,
well, there you go.
This may have saved our lives. And we do hear from a lot of people. People who, I don't know, I wouldn't classify them as lonely. They're just human beings that are looking for connection.
Yes.
And this is part of the way that they feel that connection. Some girl's in a factory doing whatever, making widgets or whatever she does. And there's 1,000 hours of the commercial break she can listen to while she's doing that, and it makes her feel better. And so I imagine, and we started this during COVID. This was more of a saving grace for us at the time because no one was listening. But but I imagine you were a saving grace for a lot of people also, because you were some kind of real connection on the TV that was actually going through it. Have you ever seen The Morning Show on Apple TV? Have you seen this?
No.
So Jennifer Aniston plays a morning.
Yes, I've seen. Yeah, I've heard of it.
So there's a whole plot line where she starts doing the show from her bedroom because she has COVID.
Right.
And when I read this about you, I was like, he's the real life morning show Jennifer Aniston. You're the Russell Howard Hour. You're like what 200? You were 200 hours into this or something?
Yeah, we kind of. I think that show doesn't run anymore. But we
we did specials.
We're just doing the specials. We did how many flipping heck? I think we did 10 series of it. And before that, we did 8 series of a show called Russell Howard's Good News. So it was a long old time. But I loved it. It's kind of, there's a weird, I think because satire has kind of migrated over to the internet, that it just isn't, the resale isn't there, so that's kind of why they don't really get made in the UK anymore. So we had an election and we had no kind of topical comedy, which is a bit of a shame. But
I think the show is brilliant. And
thanks.
You can check it out on YouTube.
Yeah, there's loads of it,
a lot of clips. Yeah,
there's a lot of it. And what's funny is the news is so cyclical, so you can, it's amazing.
Yes, you're right about that.
Watching clips of it and going, oh my god, how is this still relevant?
How did this come back around? How did this come back around?
Yeah, it's so. It's so fascinating, but that's kind of that's kind of where I guess I kind of cut my teeth properly.
So Russell, you in your new special, which is brilliant, by the way.
So
Thank you
funny.
for providing a screener. I know it's out now as this show will be released. It's out now. It's on a platform called Drift. Is that right? You've got
that's right. You can
stream
go to your
website.
Yeah, you can stream it through my website. So my website is www.russell-howard.co.uk, and
links in the show notes, everybody. So just go there and we'll link to the special and we'll link to the website. Also, this special is hilarious. It's brilliantly funny. It's kinetic. Your type of comedy is kinetic. It can be physical. You're really funny. You're really good at pointing out hypocrisy on all sides of the spectrum and then making it funny. And I really enjoyed it. One of the things that you said that really resonated with me, you were talking about how I think the way that my brain works, this is the only job that I could ever have. And that really struck a chord with me, because you walk around life just like I do. And I'm sure Krissy does too. We walk around life observing and seeing things in such a weird way that if we said those things out loud in the moment, we'd be arrested or certainly kicked out of the party. But then I get to get on a microphone, you get to get up on stage and do this. Were you always like this? Did you always was comedy always a pursuit of yours?
Yeah, I've always loved making people laugh, and my mum's very funny and my dad is very distant, so it's kind of like the perfect combo.
It sounds like my parents.
Well, exactly.
Sounds like our parents. Yeah,
you're trying to kind of stop
make
her.
Him laugh.
You're trying to make
Bring
her
him closer. Yeah,
you make him laugh and her not cry. So it was sort of that really. I don't know. I loved school, so I was kind of I was okay academically, but I really loved mucking around and just like everyone was funny at school. It just felt like it was kind of like everyone's chipping in, and I kind of loved that and kind of just grew up through that. And then I found stand-up, and you're so right. It's like when you find it, I imagine it's how, you guys said it's exactly the same for you, and you now have an output for it.
Yes.
It's probably like being a sculptor or a musician or a filmmaker or a screenwriter or whatever it is, but you sort of, when you find that valve that you can hiss your madness out of.
Yes.
And that's the great thing about stand-up, that when people laugh, to me, it makes me feel like they're going, you're not mad, it's fine. Because
yes, that's right.
but that's all I do. I kind of wander around, and occasionally my brain will whisper to me, and I kind of write it down in my phone, and then I kind of go on stage and see whether it's interesting. But I wouldn't have it any other way. It's not a particularly useful way to live your life. But I think Bill Hicks called it the third eye. Yes. And it's that squeegeeing the third eye. I'm pretty good at the third eye. You know what I mean? If like even in the midst of something, I can kind of sort of observe myself, or kind of, I remember getting mugged when I was younger, and even as it was happening, I was like, it's gonna be pretty funny. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's not kind of, it's not the best way to be, but it's kind of like the eyes go slightly kind of like cloudy, and you're kind of that da-da, you're like kind of writing it in your head. But I bet you it's the same with loads of people, where we all kind of drift off, and then I'm fortunate that I get into this place where I can just, like, even the other day we were on holiday in Australia, which is a brilliant country, and obviously we've got my son with me. And there was lots of pregnant women and their partners there doing the kind of baby moon thing. I don't know if you have that.
Yeah,
but when you go on
I've been on one.
the sort of last holiday, really good fun. And I was thinking, like, sort of in my head, going, like, if you were at an adults only resort and you were pregnant, but you gave birth, like, would you still be allowed to stay? Like, do you know what I mean?
Depends on what kind of adults only.
It wasn't a swinging thing, but I'm sort of like, but when like kids aren't welcome, I was just, and in my head, I just started like laughing at the image of that. And like,
holiday's over.
But that's what I mean. Of like, it's a boy. Now get out,
Mr. Green. We'll be giving you your bill, sir. You're no longer welcome at Chateau Adults.
Exactly. And that was, but the point is, I was just like alone in my own head, and then just wrote it down on my phone. And it's like, I'm sure I'll go to a gig at some stage and see if I can knock that into something.
Yeah.
But do you know what I mean?
Do you do a lot of improving on stage?
Yeah, I kind of like, I used to do loads when I was younger, but it's kind of, I don't like picking on people. I've never really been into that, of like kind of, rinsing the front row. Like roasting doesn't really, like English people, we're mean behind each other's backs. Like we would never say
You're very polite about being assholes. Just want you to know.
That's what I mean. Yeah. But the roast, that culture just, I mean, it's beginning to, it's sort of slightly changing, but I kind of think sometimes there's a fine line between an excellent diss and just being rude to somebody.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? And it always makes me feel a bit icky if you're kind of like the high status comic who's the expert, and you're basically calling someone's mum a whore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it just feels very kind of like,
It's a whole brand of comedy. And,
but it's that
some
that
people
kind of
do find it funny, but
totally, absolutely. But
I think there are people who do it, like you said, masterfully.
Yes.
And they're not. It feels like at the end of the day, it's done with some level of love and not at the expense of someone else's feelings. And then sometimes it's just mean for the sake of being mean.
Yeah.
And there's whole podcasts filled with people who do that.
Yeah,
right?
But I think that thing of when something happens like organically, I've always been pretty good at, like, I was doing a show in where was I? I was in Denmark in a place called Aalborg, and I said, well, what's been happening in Aalborg? What's the latest? And this lady went, we shot 2 elephants. I said, what? Like, and I said, like, what, the you lot or that? And she was like, no, the government. And I said, why? A zoo. And she's like, what? Why was that? And it's like, and she went, well, one of the elephants was sick. I said, okay. And so the other one, like, and she was like, well, we didn't want him to be lonely. So it's so bleak. So then that became this whole thing of, like, you should never work for social services. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Never work a suicide hotline. But the point is, I love it when you can make something that's happened organically. Then I mean, it has to become part of the show. So the whole kind of evening was interlinked with this kind of
that's fun.
Sort of knowledge of of how they dealt with problems. But I love improvising within my own head and kind of trying to kind of create a bit of magic. But I just don't. I'm not into that whole kind of slamming people. I don't have. If somebody heckles me, fine.
That's one thing.
But I don't kind of go looking for the front row, and you know what I mean. Because weirdly, I went to see a comedian, and my PA Andy booked me the tickets, and she's lovely, but she kind of got me them. It was like the 3rd row, right in the middle, and I was like, "Fuck!"
They're going to know me. They're going to point me out. Yeah,
and it was really. But what was interesting? It was really interesting to feel that fear.
Yes,
like, and I didn't want that. I was like going, God, and I'm a comedian, I know, and yet in my head I'm going, oh God. Yeah, and I just thought it must be so awful for people. Like, some people must love it, and of course, but some people must be sat there just praying that they're not going to be eviscerated. So it just made me think. I've been to
small comedy clubs, and it feels like if you're too
you're
close,
in trouble.
Exactly. And listen, I'm a big boy. I do this for a living. We've been up on stage. I've seen it, but also my wife, who is petrified of any public attention from strangers. She already feels the fear, and then I feel the fear for her. And we went to a comedy club one time, and this guy, his whole shtick was pointing out people's physical appearances and then knocking them without them having said a word. Now, was it funny? There were parts that were funny, but he was randomly going through the audience, and I was like, please don't pick my wife, because I'm going to have to hear about it the entire car. Please don't pick my wife. And, I think some of the... Okay, that's a valid form of comedy,
but it would kill me. But the thing that interests me is how do you sleep? Because you just at night, like my brain does that anyway. My brain does that. I'll be trying.
What did I do wrong?
Yeah, but I'll be trying to go to sleep, and my brain will remind me of some thing I did when I was 16.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Like, do you remember that?
I do.
Do you remember that outside the pub? Yeah. What
an asshole.
Yeah. And just it reminds you of these cringe moments.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine, like, if you had a career where you were just like, remember that time? I'm pretty sure she was crying. Really? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, or you feel bad.
And it's just not, I don't know, it's easy, but it's just not as interesting as trying to kind of zone in on stuff.
Agreed.
That is, interesting.
Speaking of picking on people, I have to tell you this. This is the most interesting thing I've seen in 2 weeks on any website ever.
Right.
You, on your website, you clearly are a very popular comedian who's got accolades from all over the place, and you've done it. I mean, would you consider yourself one of the UK's most popular comics?
Yeah, probably. I'm certainly, I'm definitely in the top. Yeah.
Your own government set up a website that tracks the popularity of comics. Do you know about this?
I did not know this.
YouGov.uk. Is that your official government's website?
They do.
I found a website, a web page dedicated to tracking the popularity of the comics that come from the UK.
Wowzers.
It's crazy. Now, I'm sure there's only 6 people who voted on this. There's got to be, it's like this random website.
And the government.
And the government is keeping track of it. Where are your tax dollars going?
People might have faults with Joe Biden, but I can't imagine he's got a questionnaire asking people what they felt of Chappelle's last special.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
You are a very popular comic, by the way. By some, you're like number 20. You can break it down by men, women, Gen X. I'll send this link to you. You can check it out if you feel so inclined. Yeah. But Johnny Vegas, you know who Johnny Vegas
I
is?
do
Have
know.
you heard of this guy?
Yeah,
the guy from Benny Dorm, right?
Yeah,
and like the glamping show.
Yeah,
he ranks so highly up there, and I was like, I didn't even know Johnny Vegas was a stand-up comic.
Yeah, he's a great. He hasn't done stand-up for many years, but again, so clearly they've asked a lot of people in the north of England. But he was a phenomenal comedian. He was really like in his pomp. My God, yeah, he basically played the role of a light entertainer who his life had unraveled, and he used to do like live pottery on stage. This is kind of like this is like the mid-90s, and he would have a story about how his dad made him eat his pet rabbit. It was all like really dark, and he was like making pottery as he did it.
Oh my!
Yeah, so I doubt, but maybe maybe people had seen him live. I don't know, but he's a really great comic.
Well, listen, the only thing that I knew him from was Benny Dorm, right?
Yeah,
but then I somehow got down the rabbit hole, and then I watched his show on glamping. I won't go too far off on this, but I watched his show on glamping where he's just like, he's trying to start this a camping park, right? RV park or whatever by making these things. I found him to be a very lovely human being, a complete opposite of what you see on Benny.
He's a really gentle soul. He's wonderful. He's really, really funny. But there's I'm trying to think. There's a great clip of him. He did Just for Laughs, the Montreal Comedy Festival. I think you've got to do 7 minutes. They have lawyers who check your jokes. All very kind of regimented. And I think he went on and did 15 minutes. And obviously this was before the stories about the stories that came out about Bill Cosby, because he kept saying I could have been the next Bill Cosby, but you lot had to fucking play God. And it's just this utterly bewildered Canadian audience, but it's pretty legendary. It's worth a spin. If you want to see a great comedian going down in flames, then I would recommend that.
Krissy, we might be beloved podcasters, and he might be a beloved comic, but you have never been named the UK's weirdest crush of 2013. Did you know you were named UK's weirdest crush of 2013? What is that all about?
Well, basically, there's a big magazine called Heat over here, which is like a sort of showbiz mag, and I was voted the weird crush. So the person that I guess women and some men fancied but felt terrible about. So it's kind of it says a lot about kind of like male ego that I was kind of delighted, but like as in like I just can't imagine a world in which like people going, oh, is there a girl you fancy, but you'd feel fucking awful for admitting it. Do you know what I mean? That's the thing. That would make the press. Like if people were saying that they. So I was essentially the nation's pity fuck. That's kind of what I was.
Do you get followed by the press over there?
Yeah. So it's kind of weird, really, because I would describe myself as a famous comedian rather than a celebrity, you know. And it's kind of, so I've never really been to kind of red carpets or anything like that. I've been to, I went to my sister did a premiere for a film once, and I went to the In-Betweeners film. But aside from that, it's just not my thing. I don't really so I've never lurked in that kind of world of showbiz. But I've been on TV for like 20 odd years and, done arenas.
People know you.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of, so when I kind of do press, then sometimes it kind of like during COVID, we were supposed to be going on my brother's stag do. You call it a bachelor party.
Yeah.
But obviously we couldn't. And I was doing an interview with Lorraine, who's a really lovely kind of early morning kind of TV host. And I got out a kind of pint of cider because it was supposed to be my brother's stag do, and just kind of downed it. Just was in the middle of this, essentially news, more just like drinking like really rough cider. And that went pretty wild. Like, it was kind of all over, just like Howard drinks for breakfast. And I was like, and it was just a joke to my brother and all his cousins. So I have to be pretty things sometimes. It's just that odd thing, isn't it, of like, like even in the special, that is true. That line of, it was in the paper that somebody said that I was obsessed with the idea of running a gym, but only for grannies. So it's just kind of, things I say on podcasts sometimes end up in the press. So it's pretty wild.
Well, we can only hope.
Yeah, man, I'm sure.
Hope. People can find the special now available on your website. We're going to put links in the show notes. He's doing a tour mainly of the West Coast of America, but we'll put the links there.
Oh, that'd be amazing. Yeah.
Russell, go ahead.
Question.
Sure, please.
Yeah, I have been dying to know, because we have discovered the show Naked Attraction.
Yes.
And
do you watch that? Yeah.
Dying to know, have you ever known anybody that's been on there?
No.
Or known someone that knew someone? Because, I mean, the show is so wild.
Yes.
And so
it must
fascinating.
it must go against everything that you think of British people.
Yes,
Like,
absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. But
no prudishness there.
Yeah, it was funny, isn't it? Like, America, it's so lovely to come to America, because you sort of regard us as like these regal, noble beasts.
We do.
And yet, it's because we're far away from you. We're close to Europe, and they know the truth about us. And the truth is that we have a dating show for people who don't know what Naked Attraction is, where the people meet naked, and you have like 5 women or 5 men behind 5 kind of capsules, and you sort of gradually, you lift it up.
The pelvis.
You start from the pelvis, so you'll just, you'll just see the cock or vagina of the of your potential, fiance.
Yeah.
And they literally kind of talk about their bits like
very clinically.
Clinically,
weird.
but like in the same way you might talk about like buying veg at a supermarket. It's so kind of like,
or like,
And I think one of the famous lines is, "Are you a muff man?" And this guy goes, "Well, I don't mind. I don't mind. However she wants to do it is fine." So it's kind of weirdly, it's like a cross between a porn film and like a Wallace and Gromit episode.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? There's kind of a lot going on. But yeah, it's I don't know anyone who's been on it, but it's a really good question, because presumably they know people, so their life must forever be different.
Well,
do you know what I mean? Of just
like
kind
a
of
financial advisor.
Yeah, there was one guy,
a plumber.
So we have broke down a couple of these videos. So watched them here in the studio and then commented on them as we're watching them.
Yeah.
And our listeners are floored. Last time we did it, it was a woman with men, and we just talked about penises for an hour. And I think that probably half our audience tuned out. But we have always wondered about this show. It's available on one of our streaming platforms here, HBO Max. Now, I'm not sure how many people watch it, but we've always wondered, who's going to the grocery store the next day? I mean, and everybody, the entire world just saw your cock, and now you're
naked.
Yeah,
everything.
Yeah, exactly. And it's
it's so weird.
It
boggles the mind.
It really does, and it's that is the show, isn't it? You almost want to follow them around afterwards.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? And just kind of.
You're so right about this. We need a where are they now?
Yeah.
After the dates, and I mean, I know they show the first date that they go on, but Naked Attraction, one of my favorite oddities currently anywhere in the world. Russell's special is brilliant. It is available on his website. Again, links in the show notes, and his tour. And there is so much of Russell out there on YouTube. We'll also link to his YouTube channel and, of course, his social media. Russell, you are welcome back here anytime.
Please
we are
come back.
fans of yours.
Yeah. Please.
If you have the chance, then you've got our information. We would love that. And if you should come close to Atlanta and do your act, we will be sitting not in the first row, but somewhere third row.
Third, dead center.
Russell, you're the best,
Thank
man.
you.
Get back to that kid of yours. Thanks for coming on late. We appreciate it. So fun to talk to Mr. Russell Howard. And I like how he says, you Americans think that all British people are reserved and, quietly funny. And then he comes on and he's reserved and quietly funny.
And very nice.
Reserved. He's so nice.
He was great.
Mo Gilligan, who was our other British comic friend that we made here on the commercial break, and Russell Howard. Both of them are proving that British people are, in fact, a little bit reserved and very funny and very nice. So there you go.
And very naked.
What's that?
And very naked.
Well, there you go. They're very... I wonder, I think what he was trying to say is that it is as much of a sensation over there as it is over here. It's like, wow, that's crazy. But I am still looking for that person that knows that person that was on the show, and what was their life like afterwards? Yes. How do you ever date someone again and not know that they know what your penis looks like? Right. Do you know what I'm saying?
Or use them as a plumber or your financial advisor.
When I went to the bar, at least I knew that I had my sense of humor and that they weren't going to see my penis likely for a long time. If I go on that show, then I know it's all over. All right. Thanks to Mr. Russell Howard for coming in today. We certainly appreciate it. All of his stuff will be in the show notes. Links to his YouTube, links to tickets to his show, links to his special, links to his website, links to his social media. We'll put it all in the show notes. Please do us a favor and go check out that special. He didn't come here for his health, Krissy. He needs people to watch that special.
Yes, he does. I think he will. He's going to have a lot of people watching it.
Oh, I think so too. Yes, but we want to make it a thing here in the United States because we know that people over there are going to watch it because they love Russell Howard. People here, do they know Russell Howard? Do they know Robbie Williams?
No.
Is Russell Howard in fact a dolphin or an octopus in a sexy wig? We're not sure. More info to follow. Stay tuned to the commercial break. All right, here's our info. Go to tcbpodcast.com. Everything you need is right there. We got all the audio, all the video, right there from one location. If you're a browser kind of person, you can watch it on your browser. You can listen to it in your browser. If you're old school like that, feel free. And I have a feeling some of you are that old that you're browsing. Get your free sticker also. Hit the Contact Us button. Drop down menu, I want my free shit. Give us your address, and we'll send you something. Promise. No muss, no fuss. We won't ask for anything in return, except for a like or a follow. You could do that. Also, Astrid is imploring me to implore you to go and check us out on youtube.com/The Commercial Break. Check out the new studio. Check out the new digs. Watch all of our episodes, every single one of them, now available on youtube.com/The Commercial Break. That includes all of our interviews. So if you want to see just how handsome Russell is compared to me, go check that out. You can imagine both of us on Dating Naked. A Naked Attraction. What is it called?
Naked Attraction.
Naked Attraction. Dating Naked's a different show where they don't actually show anything. They just tell you they're going to show something, but they don't really. I just noticed the camera keeps swaying over to one side. Are you noticing that? Our camera doing its own camera tricks. That's kind of cool.
It likes to do that.
There you go. All right. Add the commercial break on Instagram. TCB Podcast on TikTok. If TikTok's still around. Yeah. I think it will be. I think Trump just invited the CEO to the inauguration, so I think we're all good. Yeah. 212-433-3TCB, 212-433-3822. Questions, comments, concerns, content ideas, all there. Please, talk to us. We want to hear from you. All right, Krissy, I think that's all I can do for right now.
I think so.
I'll tell you that I love you.
I love you.
Best to you.
Best to you.
And best to you out there in the podcast universe. Until next time we talk, Krissy and I will say, we do say, and we must say,
Goodbye.